Hello, can somebody hear me? Hello, are you still there? Hello? So in today's episode of Change Talk, we're going to talk about some of the pitfalls to look out for when it comes to starting your own teletherapy practice. All right, let's get started. Whether it be a consultant, medical, or even psychotherapy virtual endeavor you are currently pursuing, knowing some information technology or IT basics not only is important towards the quality of the services you are looking to provide to your future clients, but more importantly, when it comes to the liability associated with performing your role, associated with the expectations and ethical guidelines of each state that you're currently operating in. If you don't know terms such as upload, 2.4 gigahertz, Ethernet, radio frequencies, and other terms that are vital towards operating your remote practice, then you have come to the right place. Starting off with the basics, most providers these days broadcast in 1080p resolution, which is full high-definition quality standard that should already be offered to your clients. Anything greater than this, such as 4K, can easily be detectable with extra-large television monitors, even though for most people, 1080p is sufficient. The older 720p or partial high-definition capable equipment often looks blurry on most computer monitors, and 480p transmissions should only be considered as a last resort option. Most computers, laptops, and cell phones produced within the last 5 years likely can pull off this FHD or 1080p capability with very little difficulty, rather than older computers and especially laptops and cell phones that will offer a meager 720 pixel camera capability if manufactured greater than the past 5 years. Or are budget-friendly devices that should not be used in a professional capacity. And we're talking about those entry-level cell phones that are like $100, right? Those are bare-bones systems. However, as telehealth and broadband options expand in capability and in networking speeds, expect the future upload camera resolution to jump up to 4K, also known as Ultra HD. That is roughly 2,160 pixels. When it comes to cameras you're deciding to purchase, the resolution capability is not only the place that you should start, but you should also understand that just because a camera is able to broadcast in such a resolution does not mean that it can broadcast such a video transmission accurately, which is why the aperture or the size of the hole in the camera and the actual size of the sensor of the camera is vitally important when it comes to selecting what is right for your home office. Think of aperture variance as mostly having to do with the amount of light being received into the lens, which usually helps with low-lit environments such as basements or areas that purposely block out light from windows. When it comes to the actual sensor that receives this light from the aperture, larger is typically more preferable, with my recommendation for a 3/4 inch for HD cameras and over 1 inch for future-proofing your client's 4K experience. For those of you that want to know the difference, you can easily buy an entry 4K aerial drone quadcopter for a meager $100, and afterwards watching the recording of grass beyond 3 meters turning into arcs of pixelation, since the processor can't keep up with the image. True, the video you're watching is technically 4K, because of course that's what it's transmitting in, but since each pixel was not accurately represented, it's sort of a misleading term. Thankfully, many high-end cellular telephones can actually record and broadcast in 4K, meaning that if your work allows you to travel, that such capability should not inhibit you even with a really good cell phone. When it comes to audio, I prefer soundbars since many clients' streaming services often have noise-canceling capabilities that cancels out redundant sounds generated by your own speaker system, and I perceive myself as wearing headphones as to reducing an already reduced organic client experience with an actual human. However, your client should not be able to hear their own voice being generated by your computer or soundbar speakers. If you experience a problem with this crosstalk, you are always welcome to choose a USB or Bluetooth headphone set with microphone that should negate this problem. Just keep in mind that the more add-ons that you plug into your computer, such as separate microphones and accessories, the more likely you are going to experience problems with devices failing or the wrong component being selected. A quick example of this is USB hubs with lightning bolt capabilities that look like USB-C receptacles, but also have the potential to carry video signals, such as your HDMI or DisplayPort signal, to your monitor that can easily cause confusion with your driver system that is attempting to select the right program to run the right device that it thinks you want to use. So if you want a novice approach when it comes to simplifying all of this, of course, purchase yourself a low-end gaming laptop for better integrated graphics and more things that can directly be tied into your system's motherboard. Just keep in mind that due to everything being integrated, it will typically mean smaller apertures, sensors, speakers, and more eye strain due to smaller monitor. If you want to consider the virtual standard provider experience, might I tempt you with a mini personal computer iteration that have the same tiny motherboard as your laptop has, yet typically has more solid state and random access memory expansion capabilities that are exceedingly difficult with laptops due to plastic clips and the increasingly more commonly fused internal components that are typically soldered in place, right? In layperson's terms, if you want more expandability and the ability to plug more devices into your computer that you want to use, please consider a mini PC instead of a laptop. You can do a lot more with them and yet still be environmentally friendly with their often reduced power consumption and small form factor, oftentimes giving you the option to mount them right behind your monitor using a Versa or a similar mounting system. Mini PCs also have more overhead space for the solid-state disk, memory, and central processing unit, equating to a better cooling performance than a laptop, and of course, better performance and longevity because of these components being so easily cooled. As for a monitor, I highly recommend a single ultra-wide monitor with WUHD capability in order to reduce eye strain and increase productivity with split screen potential. Two separate monitors can still work, just remember each one requires a power brick that is constantly wasting more electricity and is unsightly rather than a single monitor and power brick. In order to reduce desk monitor vibrations, I highly recommend you to watch a video on wall mounting your monitor, which is less intimidating than it might seem. You also should have an understanding of firmware and driver differences in computers. They are both programs to provide instructions to your computer, but one is more operating system related, such as Windows 11, whilst firmware software often needs to be updated or repaired through the manufacturer of your motherboard, video card, expansion device, or auxiliary equipment that you choose to use. Updating this software oftentimes is as easy as going to your specific manufacturer's website, entering in the model number that you currently have, and under the support page, installing firmware and driver packages that will often correct faulty equipment. It has been my experience that 9 times out of 10, for equipment that has once worked and becomes faulty, either has a corrupted driver or firmware package. Thankfully, these sites often already have an updated software package that was designed to fix this already known problem by the manufacturer, but since your component was manufactured sometimes years ago, has yet to receive this update. This software information will not only help you, but also your clients troubleshoot problems that they might have with their own devices. Despite network-attached storage and access points being important also when it comes to starting your own virtual practice, in order to keep this video short, I will simply focus on attempting to convince you to seriously consider hardlining your network connection to either a network switch or directly into your router if you have the capability. We have come a long way when it comes to increasing Wi-Fi standards, interference resolutions, and advancing mesh networks that are slowly replacing the standalone traditional router. However, with increasing network congestion due to more smart devices, homes becoming closer to your neighbors, reducing available radio frequencies that these routers transmit in, and of course, our smart devices choosing to use the old 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi standards in order to increase range of the transmission and to reduce costs of the device, we find ourselves with too many reasons not to use wireless internet today than Ethernet or fiber options. For those of you that are new to wireless, suffice it to say that now the common standards include 2.4, 5, and 6 gigahertz standards that decrease the range and resiliency of your signal as you go up from the 2.4 to 6 gigahertz range, whilst increasing bandwidth or the overall amount of data that can transmit at any single time. We're not even talking about the proper places to place these mesh or router devices and the appliances and environmental factors that can interfere with your livelihood. So please just use a fixed and reliable cable that will plug into the back of your computer in order to resolve the aforementioned problems with wireless devices. 2 quick downfalls associated with my recommendations includes options such as unidentified network messages being received if you cross the Ethernet phone lines across active power cables in your wall, and of course fracturing fiber optic connections if someone chooses to step on or snag the line. Even with these caveats, hardwired connections are exponentially more reliable than wireless transmissions. Although an existing Category 5E cable will get the job done, might I suggest a Category 7 or 8 cable that can do 10 gigabytes per second or 40 gigabytes per second, respectively, if you have to buy a cable anyways in order to future-proof your connection. Speaking of connections, oftentimes people that do virtual work do not look at their upload speeds due to being brainwashed by advertisements on how important download speeds are. Fiber optic plans often provide what is called a symmetrical connection to your home, mirroring the upload and download speeds, with even the lowest plans being oftentimes sufficient enough for most streaming providers. Due to the limitations of DSL and coaxial lines, oftentimes these other providers try to give their patrons a false sense of security by offering download speeds that are in the hundreds of megabytes per second, while their upload speeds might be in the single or double digits, which is another pitfall of a provider not knowing what they are doing wrong. My recommendation is to have at least a steady 20 megabytes per second upload speed for the best experience for your clients, since most streaming services these days automatically detect the health of both your upload and download speeds and will reduce or increase the quality of your image depending on the health of this network speed. Keep in mind that other devices, security cameras, and video gaming systems will also steal from this upload or transmitting bandwidth, so your best bet is to always have plenty more upload potential than you actually need.